who claim that for them they love democracy. They're in love with democracy. So they want to go and impose democracy on Niger. Not so. Now check them out. How many of these leaders have done as their national constitution say in submitting themselves to their parliaments, in getting parliamentary approval for their recklessness? None of them. Only Tinubu attempted it, and the Nigerian parliament told him to go to hell. The Nigerian parliament refused to back Tinubu's attempt to wage war in Niger. But he's going ahead. A person who does not listen to his parliament and is going ahead to wage war, to kill, and so on, has no capacity to install democracy anywhere in the world. No capacity. This action or intended action in Niger is completely lawless. We know that under international law, you cannot wage war on another country or invade another country without the express approval of the UN Security Council. Has that happened? It hasn't. So all of this is lawlessness. And lawless people, even if they are leaders, cannot impose democracy on any people. Comrades, all I'm saying is this. What is happening at the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum should not be taken at face value. It is much deeper than that. It's an attempt to return us to the gambling house of colonialism. It's an attempt to keep us under the neo-colonial yoke. It's an attempt to perpetuate our poverty. It's an attempt to destroy the symbols of hope. The symbols of hope that can take us forward. And we need to resist it. I've been asked, how do you resist it? It is very simple. If these people were not in power, they could not do what they are doing today. So our first responsibility is to make sure that they are not in power, so that they cannot continue to desecrate the mausoleum. First thing, make sure they are not in power. That's our first responsibility. Our second responsibility is to intensify efforts to raise the consciousness of our people. Our second responsibility is to intensify political education so that our people will know where we are coming from, where we are today, and where we are likely to go. It's a key responsibility of the progressive forces of Africa. How do we resist these people? We resist them by exposing their lies. We resist them by making it clear that their claims about participation in the national liberation movement and so on are mostly false. Let's tell the truth about our history. And that is one of the things that we can do to stop the desecration of the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum. Look, from the days when you could go to prison from displaying, we have come very far. We have come from the days when you could go to prison for displaying photographs of Nkrumah to today, where everybody in the world is talking about Nkrumah. There is no limit to what we can do. And gradually, surely, conscientiously, and so on, we will get to the point where we shall build that new world in Africa and Ghana that Nkrumah dreamt about. They can continue with their mischief and so on, but we will beat them again, and beat them again, and beat them again, until we build that prosperous Africa, working in the interest of African people. That Africa which will make sure that Africans own their own resources and exploit those resources for the benefit of Africans. And nothing can stop the victory of the oppressed masses of Africa. We, the masses of Africa, will defeat them and will establish the unity of Africa under the banner of socialism, whether they like it or not. Comrades, let's come back to the mausoleum. The first indication that they wanted to bastardize the mausoleum was given by the Minister of Tourism, who claimed that they were going to create what they called the freedom path, freedom way, freedom path. And that in this freedom path, they were going to erect effigies of J.B. Dankwa. Who are the other ones? Sometimes I even forget their names. William Oforiatta, Akufo-Addo, and others. They were going to bring the enemies of Nkrumah to his resting place. They were going to bring the effigies of the enemies of Nkrumah to his resting place. For those of you who have visited the mausoleum recently, you would find that there is space for these effigies. But because of the struggle all of us waged, you and I waged, they couldn't carry through that promise. So Nkrumah, he has 6 of his photographs in one place. That is a defeat for them, and we shall repeat that, we shall defeat them again and again. In our traditional sense, the grave, the resting place, is a resting place, isn't it? And in Nkrumah's resting place, you go and bring 5 people who did everything they could to kill him to his final resting place. How can that be a resting place? What kind of mind does that? In any case, all of this are being done on the back of lies. Blatant lies. One of the lies is that the Nkrumah government was overthrown because it was a dictatorship. I'm sure you've heard it. All of you have heard it. That they overthrew the Nkrumah government because it was a dictatorship. It didn't make room for the opposition. The opposition was not allowed to participate in national politics and so on. I stand in front of you today and I say to you that that is a lie. Why is it a lie? The first attempt to overthrow the Nkrumah government by these so-called Dankwa Buzia elements was at a time when Ghana was a fully fledged multi-party democratic society. Check the history. The T-Junction affair involving Ara and Ponsa, involving Awate and others, happened when Ghana was a fully fledged democratic state. And all the subsequent attempts at overthrowing him before 1960 took place when Ghana was a fully fledged democratic state. So that is a lie. It's a brazen lie. Then, of course, we are told today that the credit for founding the modern Republic of Ghana should not go to Nkrumah. It should go to somebody called J.B. Dankwa. And a lot of people have bought into that and so on. I've been trying to establish the true status of J.B. Dankwa. What was J.B. Dankwa? Who was he? In the United Gold Coast Convention, who was J.B. Dankwa? Check the historical record. J.B. Dankwa was the Eastern Regional Chairman of the UGCC. That was his post. So in today's terms, J.B. Dankwa is nothing more than Chairman Wuntumi or Abronye. And that is what they've been making all this noise about. J.B. Dankwa was nothing more than Chairman Wuntumi or Abronye. And so much noise about his stature and so on. And some even go to the extent of saying that he was the founder of the UGCC. Founder of the UGCC from where? Just yesterday, I was looking through the records of the UGCC, and I saw a record which was most interesting. They had gone to a meeting, and they were trying to raise funds, to get the UGCC moving and so on. And Park Grant had contributed £250. Go and check how much J.B. Dankwa contributed. It is not even so much how much he contributed. He contributed £25. Okay? But it's not even how much he contributed. After he contributed £25, he took his transport and hotel accommodation from the money which was generated. This is your founder of Ghana. Yes, it is true that at some stage, J.B. Dankwa suggested that the new country may be called Ghana. But you know, the historical record tells us that soon after that, he came up with a new dream and said that the new state should be called Akan Land. Akan Land. When he was challenged, he said, okay, let's add Ga. So let's call it Akan Ga Land. And then he came up with another foolish contraption. And this is absolutely foolish. This is not an insult. This is the truth. So foolish a contraption that the northern parts of Ghana should be called Fergusonia. Fergusonia. Hey, J.B. Dankwa. Why? And this is the man we are supposed to be worshipping. This is the man we are supposed to be worshipping because he's supposed to have done so much for the independence of Ghana and so on. Now, recently, I also saw a very simple historical document. The flyer J.B. Dankwa used for his election in 1960. I'm sure some of you have seen it. And on that flyer, he's urging the people of Ghana to vote against the Republican status. That vote J.B. Dankwa, vote against the Republicanism. Now what does that mean? It is the attainment of the Republican status which made Ghana truly independent. What we got in 1957 was partially